Hey y'all, my name is Dean FM. Today I would like to react to some animations. I thought that they were fun to watch. I always like to watch these, especially at night, because I like them and I think that they're fun. And like Martin's animations and Denny's animations that do all the horror ones, I actually fall asleep to them. But I love them still. It's like so much fun because you get into the story. I don't know if anybody else can relate to like when you get into the story, like you start to fall asleep, and it helps you fall asleep. So let's not fall asleep, but we want to go through the stories because I always like to kind of like talk like when I'm listening to them because sometimes I get aggravated. But it's not about like the production of anything. It's about like the like what's going on. So I want to discuss it because these stories can get crazy sometimes. So let's go. Let's go. So today I'm going to be reacting to Martin's animations in terms of um. So we got because I think that he's done the most recent. I think what he posted that I saw, which I really want to see, is the 6 Blizzard Snowstorm horror stories animated. I hope it's okay to react to that. We're gonna see. I just want to have fun as I find other things to react to in terms of queerness and things of that nature. So let's go.
Years ago, I was living in a relatively nice and quiet duplex and worked as a contractor for a small company. It was the winter of 2016, and while the area I lived in was lonely, I always enjoyed what I was grateful for in life. I won't name the town I was in, but figure the Ocala type area. Those who have been around there will probably know what I'm talking about when I say rural.
Well, I know rural. I live
Grasslands, rolling hills, and scattered forms of civilization amongst roads. While it got lonely at times, it wasn't always like that. I lived with my miniature dachshund Sadie. Big bark, small bite, and was the most precious thing in the world.
They don't look like that, but it's still cute.
She was my comfort dog and would always be there for me when I was feeling down. One day, I had just got back from work and started up the stove to heat up some food. Midway through my cooking, I hear Sadie begin to bark at my bedroom door for some reason. Completely oblivious, I just assumed it was her being bored and focused on dinner. However, she still continued to bark, even after I told her to stop. Assuming she just wanted to go into my room to play with her toy, I open my bedroom door and she basically flies in and begins to bark under my bed.
Okay.
My heart sank into the pit of my stomach as it was clear she was chasing something.
Yeah, come on.
At this point, she's going absolutely nuts, barking at something under my bed while trying to get under. Assuming it was probably a lizard or a roach, I grab her and put her out in the kitchen where she thankfully quieted down. My duplex is located right next to a wooded area, so it wasn't uncommon for small, unwanted critters to scurry around.
Stove. Shit.
No matter how many times the landlord called in the exterminator, the problem always persisted. After I ate, I put my plate in the dishwasher, got ready for bed, and went to sleep for about an hour before waking up to Sadie barking. This somewhat bothered me, as I had to work early and I couldn't sleep with her barking. As I sat bolt upright, trying to grab her, she then jumps off my bed and begins to bark under the bed again. Now I felt that she was trying to tell me something, and so I get up and look under my bed with my flashlight.
Ignore the shit?
Laying under my bed was the face of a man smiling at me with these abnormally large eyes. He was clearly older than me. I would estimate 50s, but I didn't see all of his facial features.
Jesus.
He puts his finger to his lips and makes a shushing sound. That's when I scream my head off and yell at the person hiding under my bed to get out of the house. When I didn't hear a response or see him come out, I ran to the bathroom and locked the door behind me. For those wondering, yes, I took Sadie with me.
You better the
reason why I didn't go out the front door was because I had already locked it and my key was on the other side of the bed, along with my phone. Within a minute, I could hear his heavy footsteps approach the bathroom door, followed by a light tap. He then proceeds to mess with the lock on the bathroom door, trying to open it with God knows what.
Ooh.
Keep in mind that I haven't fully seen this guy, so I didn't know what he had on him.
Doesn't
After
look
some
like
time
much.
of him trying to pick the lock, he says in a slow, creepy voice, "I know you're in there. You know I could break this door down in 2 seconds, right, ma'am?" That was when I realized that this person was dangerous and that he wasn't going to give up that easy. The only thing I could do was to jump out the small glass window and out onto the street.
Laughing, you better go.
Then, as if things couldn't get any worse, the window wouldn't move up due to the ice surrounding it.
Oh no, go.
I was frozen shut.
Come on.
Not knowing what else to do, I go into the shower
trying her
and
best.
unscrew the shower head and use it to smash open the window.
Come on.
I go through first and trample onto the snow with my shoulders bleeding from the broken glass.
Careful.
I carefully grab Sadie, making sure she didn't get hurt, and from there we go over to the neighbor's house and call the police. The neighbors were hesitant before saying yes, but wanted to stay out of it as they didn't want to get involved. The police had come sooner than expected and went into the house and
Which one
came
is the
out with the
police?
guy. However, he didn't try to get away.
He looks scarier than the other guy.
He kind of just went with it, accepting his defeat.
5 o'clock
After
shadow.
he was detained, one of the officers had come to me and told me something disturbing. The minute they went into my room, everything was wiped out. My bed, furniture, TV, and computer were all destroyed and ruined.
Oh, well that sucks.
Turns out, he had also managed to get in the bathroom by breaking down the door.
Yeah?
The bathroom has one of those strong metal doors, so for him to break it down just shows how strong he was. The cops had given me some criticism about how I went about reporting this wrong, and that I shouldn't have locked myself in the bathroom.
What?
At the time, I felt that he was being insensitive
You better
or
back that
blaming
finger
me for
up.
my wrongdoing. However, then I remembered that
That's my
these were
bitch. Who the fuck
police
you talking
and
to?
probably deal with situations like these every day.
Get
If
him.
I hadn't thought of the idea to break the window, God only knows what would have happened to me. Hurt, kidnapped, or worse.
Yep.
I haven't heard of the man since, and I had since moved out of that area. Sadie had unfortunately passed away in late 2018 due to a cancer tumor that I had caught during its late stage. While she may not be with me now, her soul still remains, and I thank her for alerting me about the man.
You do her dirty
I
with
love
that.
you, Sadie.
With that animation.
I live alone in a somewhat busy neighborhood. This happened about a year ago. It was the winter time, and I live in a climate that typically gets a lot of snow. Not only was there already some snow on the ground, but it was also very cold. One night, I was at home by myself when it started to snow a lot. I had heard about a large snowstorm that was supposed to hit the area, so
And for context, it's snowing here too, so let's go.
intentions of going anywhere. Luckily for me, I was working at home for the next several days. Pretty soon, the snow really started to come down. I looked out my window occasionally to see more snow each time.
Right?
It was very heavy snowfall as well. Soon it was nighttime, and I was really glad that I didn't have to be anywhere. Occasionally, a snowplow would drive down my street, but other than that, it was very quiet.
I like
Probably like 7 p.m. Suddenly, there was a knock at my front door. I found this to be pretty odd. I walked over and looked out of the window. A young woman was standing there. I didn't see a car or anything, so I didn't know where she had come from.
Okay.
But at my house, from my front windows,
Okay.
I don't have a very good view of the street or even my driveway. I didn't know who she was, and she wasn't really dressed for the weather. She just had
No,
pants
she
and a
looks
sweatshirt
okay.
on and appeared to be in her early 20s. I opened the door and asked her what she was doing out in this snowstorm. The woman asked me if she could come inside my house to warm up. Her story was that her ex-boyfriend kicked her out of his car and then drove off, or something like that. I asked her if there was anybody that could come and pick her up or something.
Oh.
She said that she had just called her mom, and she was going to come. I didn't really like the idea of somebody who I didn't know coming inside of my house. For some reason, I felt like it was a bad idea. But I did feel bad for her with it being a snowstorm and everything, so I allowed her to come inside.
Yes.
I told her she
Yes.
could wait right inside the door.
Come on.
When you enter the front door at my house, it's
Oh.
kind of between the living room and
She's
dining room.
transported through the door,
The
but
front door is on the left
Come on,
side
girl.
of the house. The living room is to the right, and the dining room is straight ahead.
okay.
After the woman entered, she made a beeline walking straight into the dining room. I was really confused, but I didn't say anything. I just watched her. She kind of said something quietly like, "Sorry, 1 second." Then she walked all the way to the back of the house and was going out of my sight. I started to walk closer to her to see what she was doing.
You have a right to
As soon
stop
as I looked around the
like,
corner
at that
and
point.
saw her again, she was at the back door of my house
You
and
have to be
opening
that
it
nice.
up. My first thought was wondering why she was going back outside if she wanted to come inside so badly.
Oh, is she going
But that
outside?
thought was interrupted when I saw the door open and 2 men suddenly walked right inside of it. I
Uh-oh.
couldn't believe it. At that point, for me, my instincts just kicked in.
It's Tom and
I
Jerry.
instantly turned and ran the opposite direction. I ran towards my hallway where my bedroom and bathroom was.
Why are all
I
their
heard multiple
eyes fucked
footsteps
up?
coming after me, but they were still a ways back. After I got inside my bathroom, I closed the door and locked it. But just seconds later, somebody tried opening the door. There were multiple people outside of my bathroom now. Nobody said anything though, including
Jesus.
me. After the door wouldn't
Why are you
open,
taking
there
a
were a
bath
few
at this
loud
point?
bangs on it.
Like,
I got out my phone to call the police,
get out the
but
bath.
did not feel safe staying in the bathroom. So right after dialing 911, before I spoke to
Please.
the operator or anything, I tried opening my window as quickly as I could. I probably did it in record time, and then I jumped out of my bathroom window and landed on a bush that was covered in snow.
Good.
Then I ran through the deep snow in my yard and fell several times trying to run fast. I made it back to my feet quickly
Run,
though,
little bitch,
and
run, little
eventually
bitch, run,
I got
run,
around
little
my
bitch, run,
house
little
into the
bitch, run.
street. I just kept running until I made it as far away from my house as I could. Then I was finally able to talk with the 911 operator. I said everything that happened, and after that I walked down my street far away and waited until the police arrived. I didn't have a coat on or anything, but the crazy part is that I wasn't even cold at all. My adrenaline was going too much.
Yeah, that
When the
happens.
police got there, the woman and the 2 men had
Bitch,
taken
you in
off.
heat. You ready to
I
go.
got back to my house to find it a mess. There was stuff all over the floor, and a few things were stolen. It could have been much worse, though, as I saw they didn't go in every room. They probably realized after I got away that they would have limited time before the police got there.
Yeah, they
I feel
ransacked
very
the
lucky
shit.
that I made it out safely. I'm not sure what those people would have done if I had stayed.
Yeah.
Would they have tried to hurt me? I hope not, but I will never know. Since
Yeah.
that happened, I don't answer my door to anybody that I don't already know. I also have installed a Ring doorbell, which would have been nice to have at the time of the incident. I'm hoping nothing like that ever happens again.
I don't think that would have helped, to be honest.
This story happened years ago when I was still in high school. During that time, I was pretty busy. I went to school 5 days a week and then worked a part-time job at a nearby restaurant. One time in the winter, I had heard all week that a big snowstorm was coming.
Right.
It was supposed to hit in the afternoon.
Okay.
And this was not good because I had to work after school until 8 p.m. Luckily, though, the snow held up a bit. It started just towards the end of my shift, and as I was driving home, it started to intensify.
Okay.
I was able to make it home safely, though, and then it really started coming down. After I made it home, I did some homework, and then went into my bedroom to play video games.
Okay.
It was a Friday night, so I had no school the next day. I also didn't have to work. My parents went to bed at probably like 10 or 11, but I wasn't planning on going to bed for a while.
Yeah.
My
Same.
bedroom was on the front side of the house and across and down the hallway a little bit from my parents. Usually, I had my windows covered, but on this night, I left the cover half open. I enjoyed seeing the snow fall and found it to be relaxing. So I was there having a great time, just gaming in my room during a snowstorm, when something really strange happened.
Here we go.
Something out of the window caught my eye, so I glanced out to see. What I saw was a man walking down the sidewalk in front of our house. He was pretty far away, but I didn't recognize him. I knew most of our neighbors, and I wondered what this guy was doing out walking at almost midnight in the middle of a blizzard. I kept my eye on him as he continued to walk down the sidewalk.
Where are you?
But then he turned and began walking into our front yard. I thought this was really strange,
Hell
and
no.
I paused my game to see what the man would do. He then walked right into our front yard, and
Yeah.
then cut through the grass and went towards our front
Caught
step.
him. Caught him.
My heart started
Caught
racing
loud.
when I saw this. I was still trying to figure out what exactly was going on. He was now out of my sight, though, so I carefully and quietly left my bedroom. I went down the hallway and then stopped at the end of it. I looked around the corner carefully. We had a large front window that had a shade over it, but you could still basically see people on the other side, or at least you could see their shadows. I didn't want him to see mine. He was standing at the front step, I could tell. I was expecting him to knock on the door or ring the doorbell any second, but he didn't.
I feel like at that point, you have a right to call the cops. If somebody's on your property and you don't want them there, and they're clearly doing so, trespassing, you can trespass them if you so wish. And you should do so. Whenever you feel in danger, whenever you feel threatened, you should be able to call the police, get out of there, do what's best for you to survive. That's the number one thing in like life or death situations. Just survive. And that's obvious. So I don't know why I'm talking about this. So let's go.
I jumped back when I saw this. The man was standing right next to the living room window.
Right.
And possibly trying to look in. I really couldn't tell though. I quietly went back into my bedroom down the hallway. When I got in, I was listening closely if I could hear anything. After a few moments, I looked out of my window towards where the man had been before. He was gone now. I left my bedroom and went to the end of the hallway and looked out. I didn't see the man out the front window.
He's gone.
He wasn't at the front step either. I was
Should've
wondering
called
where
him.
he had gone and
Should've
hoping
took a
that he had
pic.
left.
Record
I then
it.
went to each and every window and looked out all of them. Most of them were fine until I got to the back of the house. Before I looked outside the kitchen
Oh, there he
window,
is.
which looked out to the backyard,
Dumbass.
I saw the guy. I jumped back, and I didn't think that he saw me. He was now standing on the back patio, a few feet away from the back door. I ran back to my bedroom, terrified. When I got there, I was debating what to do. Should I call the police?
Yeah.
Wake up my parents?
Yeah.
Or just hide in my room and hope that the man would leave?
Or do fuck all.
Then, about a minute later, as my mind was still racing and thinking of what to do,
Bitch,
I heard a
cuss.
knock at the front door.
Scream.
I went back out into the hallway and looked.
Huh?
The guy was now back on the front step. I was definitely not going to answer the door. The man did not knock again, though. He stood there for several more minutes and then just turned and walked away. He left the front step, this time walking straight back. I went back to my bedroom and watched the guy walk back to the sidewalk and then out of sight.
So is he shivering? Or is he, talking to himself? Talking about like some, I'm gonna get you. Or, I'm cold as fuck. You know what I mean? Which one is it? A or B?
I still had no clue as to what he had been doing. I stayed up that night until after 2 o'clock in the morning. The man didn't return. Eventually, I fell asleep, and the next morning, everything was fine.
Good.
I told my parents about it, but they figured it was just a drunk neighbor or something.
Yeah, it's too late.
Maybe it was, but I know that
Again.
was the most creeped out I've ever been. I still remember how scary it was to see him outside of our house. Luckily, he never came back. This story occurred when I was driving back home from work one night. It was
Okay.
snowing like crazy, and had been for quite some time.
It's the It Company.
I got off of work late, which was not good news for me, because when I got back to my car, I had to clear off all of the snow with a snow scraper, and there was probably like 3 or 4 inches on top of it already. Then I got inside my car and left, and quickly realized
So with the snow, what you gotta do is, you gotta make sure that you get the snow. So if you wanna prevent frost and stuff, I would suggest if it snows to pick up the snow while it's fluffy. Because over time it's just gonna harden. So you gotta if you don't want a damn icicle for a vehicle, then yeah, that's what you should do. Okay, let's go.
that the driving conditions were not safe at all. It was probably 10 p.m. at this point. I drove very slowly on the roads, and there seemed to be hardly anybody else out driving. It would normally take me about 15 minutes to get home. This time, though, I think it took almost 30. Basically, the entire way back, I really only noticed one car, and it was driving behind me. I don't even remember at what point it started to drive behind me, but I think it was pretty early on. Each time that I turned, I didn't expect the car to turn with me,
Okay.
but it did.
Got a little
By
stop.
the time I was almost home, I
Stop
assumed that it was
action.
one of my neighbors. The roads were so slippery that you had to take every turn very slow. When I turned onto my street, the car behind me did as well at a very slow speed. I was pretty sure that it was a neighbor.
Never underestimate snow. When you're driving, you gotta be extra, extra careful to make sure that you don't crash. Because if you're trying to make a turn and you see that it's, there's some ice there, and you know that this is icicle territory, make sure at every single damn turn that you are slow. Slow as shit. Because that's how you do it. That's how you make sure you don't get into these issues of slipping and skidding and crashing. You know what I mean? So, It's good not to do that.
There are a lot of other houses on my street, and I don't know everyone. So when I got to my driveway, I turned and pulled in. The car following me kept going down the street. I have a garage at my house, but it's detached. I drove up to it and then opened the garage, drove inside, and then closed the garage door. Then I turned my car off and got out. After that, I got my bags from the back seat. Then I left the garage to walk to the house. But as soon as I opened the garage door, I saw a car parked in my driveway. It must have been the same one that had seemingly been following me. I was really confused and didn't know what was going on. I made it between my garage and house and had to walk around to the front door. When I saw...
Yeah, that's tricky. That's like a microaggression that you can't call out in a moment. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's so subtle, but you know that this is gonna fuck you up, kill you. Like, you know what I mean?
When I saw the car, I stopped for a second and thought about what to do. I couldn't tell who was driving the car because of it being dark out and the headlights, plus all the snow. I didn't know who it was or what they were doing here. Instead of confronting them or something, I decided not to. I chose to ignore them and walk right past. Looking back, it was kind of weird, but I just wanted to get inside. I figured they would probably drive away, plus it was snowing and it was safer inside. I turned and began walking along the front of my house to the door. When I was about halfway there, I heard the door to the car open. Whoever had been inside must have gotten out. I kept walking and didn't bother to turn around. And when I...
Girl, there ain't no keyhole there. It's like he's just poking something. And that's a long-ass key, too. Like, I feel like those keys are from back in the 220s.
When I just about made it to my front door, finally decided to look over. When I did, I saw a man standing there next to the car, wearing a really creepy-looking clown mask. It sent a shiver down my spine. I hurried and unlocked the door and then got inside.
Yeah, that was an issue once.
He just stood there.
Somehow.
It was really creeping me out. And after getting inside, I went to the other end of the house. I wanted to just ignore it. When I went back a few minutes later, he was gone. The car and the guy in the clown mask. I was happy to see that, but the whole situation still seemed really odd to me.
Yeah.
Why would somebody follow me in that bad of a snowstorm? The driving conditions were terrible. Then he just stood there, staring at me like a complete weirdo.
Yeah.
It's something that still leaves me wondering today.
I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. That's
This
just
happened
awkward as
back when I
fuck.
was a teenager. I think I was 14 years old, and probably a freshman in high school. It was the winter time, and sometime in the early evening. The sun had set, and it was dark out. We were getting a large snowstorm, and I was sent outside by my mom to shovel the driveway. She was cooking and said that food would be ready when I got inside. It was kind of my job to shovel the driveway, and I didn't really mind it. When it was snowing this badly, though, it could be tough. We had a pretty long and straight driveway, and I needed to shovel it now, even though it was still snowing. That way, the next morning, instead of having like a foot of snow to shovel, there would be less, and it would be faster and easier. I went as quickly as I could, and things were going pretty well. Our neighborhood was generally pretty quiet, and not that many neighbors were outside or anything. We also lived on a cul-de-sac with only about 10 houses on it total, so I pretty much knew all the neighbors and their cars and stuff.
Beating it up.
When I had reached near the end of the driveway and was shoveling the last section...
Okay, so that's an interesting way to shovel. Like, he's just literally like up, and he's just whipping it on the floor. You know, God bless him.
section, I heard a car coming onto the street. It entered our street and then came around the corner, going very slowly. It was a larger and older-looking black SUV. It looked to be a Chevy Suburban. I had never seen it before and wondered whose it was. It slowly drove past me as I shoveled and then went to the loop of the cul-de-sac. It went around there and then started to come back down the street. At that point, I guessed that it was somebody who was on the wrong street. They were probably just going to go back around, but they were going extremely slow. Then they started to slow down in front of our driveway, and it kind of creeped me out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
They moved past, though, but then pulled over on the side of the street right in front of our house. It was only about 50 feet away from me. I wondered who on earth it could be. In fact, I wanted to just run back inside of my house right then and there.
Across the street.
But I figured that would be weird and decided to just keep shoveling. The car sat there with the engine running, and nobody got out of it. I glanced, but I couldn't see who was inside at all. It was not a good angle to see the driver. Plus, it was dark out, and the windows were tinted. I shoveled, trying to hurry up and finish so I wouldn't have to be creeped out by this strange vehicle. The SUV then shut off, but nobody got out. After probably 2 or 3 minutes of the SUV just sitting there, the door finally opened. I was now almost at the complete end of the driveway. I saw a man get out of the car, and then he began walking over to me. He was kind of tall and thin, and wore a black jacket and jeans.
And a beanie?
He also wore a winter hat, and had sort of long hair.
When
I saw that he was walking straight for me, I really wanted to just get out of there. I told myself not to, though, and I shouldn't be afraid of people. The guy walked right up to me and said hi. I said hi to him, and was really nervous. The guy asked me if I wanted some help shoveling, and said that he could help me. I told him no thanks, and that I was just about done. He then asked me if I lived there, and I said yes. He just stood there for a few moments as I finished up the shoveling. Then he said something that really creeped me out. The guy asked me if I wanted to ride anywhere. I asked him why. He said, I could take you anywhere you want to go right now if you want.
You see what I'm saying? I forgot how old this person is supposed to be, but I want to say do not take rides from strangers even if you're an adult. You know what I mean? I forgot how old this person is supposed to be, but yeah, don't do that. You know, stranger danger, any age.
I said no to the man, and that I was supposed to go inside now. I started to walk away. The guy stood there and watched me as I started heading back. When I made it about halfway up the driveway, I heard him walking back to his car. It was a relief. When I made it back inside, I told my parents about the guy. We looked out the window, but he was gone now. This was one of the stranger things that had ever happened to me. But that night, I stayed up kind of late. It was probably like 10 p.m., and I looked out of my window and noticed that the SUV was back. I really couldn't believe it. I kept my eyes on it and could see that the engine was running. The same man was probably inside, and I was hoping that he wouldn't get out. I really just couldn't believe that he had come back. He was parked in the exact same place as before. Then, after about a minute, the truck drove away. I went and told my parents. My dad went outside, but the man was long gone by then. After that night, I never saw the truck or the man after that.
No.
The story still gives me the creeps when I think back to it, though. I don't know why the guy came down our street or what he was doing. I'm really glad that he didn't try to make me go with him or something. Looking back, I probably should have gone inside as soon as I saw the car parking in front of our yard.
Maybe.
We moved to Connecticut the summer before I entered 6th grade in 2001.
Okay.
We moved into a beautiful new house in one of the most beautiful towns I'd ever seen. It was a bit more rural than we were used to in New Jersey, but it was an adjustment. My sister is 2 years younger than me, and she was going into 4th grade at the time. We came from a neighborhood where we were all super close and everyone knew one another. Block parties every summer and kids running back and forth to one another's houses, and we were sad to leave it. Within the first few weeks, we met some of our neighbors. Everyone was what we soon defined as very Connecticut.
Good.
It was all a bit surface, and nobody had that New Jersey warmth that we had been used to. In particular, our neighbors directly across the street seemed a bit odd. The mom would come over to vent to my mom about her sons and husband, and my mom was a sweetheart and was very welcoming and warm.
Okay.
The holidays came around, and the neighbor boy across the street was in my sister's 4th grade class. My sister came back slightly alarmed with what had happened in class that day. The students were asked to make a Thanksgiving turkey out of a traced drawing of their hands.
Okay.
On each finger, they were supposed to write things that they were thankful for.
I remember doing that. It ain't looking nothing like a turkey. I'm sorry. It don't. It's just false. I'm pressing charges.
The neighbor boy wrote things like, being a loser, hating myself, etc. Very, very dark things for a 4th grader.
Yeah.
Fast forward to Christmas, and my mom hears that they have nowhere to go for the holidays, so she politely invites the mother and 2 of her sons to our annual Christmas Eve party. The boys were so strange. They listened to Japanese techno with headphones on and didn't speak to anyone. They headed straight to our basement to play video games. It was weird.
Okay.
The younger one, though, was always much stranger than the older one.
I'm sure.
And the neighbor mom would always open up to my mom and aunt about how he would hurt himself, and how he needed to be put in special needs programs, but that he could never quite be diagnosed.
Same.
They thought that he was on the spectrum at first, but that quickly proved to not be the case. We always assumed that she'd been confiding in them because my aunt was experienced with special needs kids, and that she was looking for advice from her.
Yeah.
The Christmas Eve stands out to me because they were at our home in a very intimate setting, but we saw them on a daily basis. My sister and I would come home from school telling my mom about how weird the younger neighbor boy was, and that something was just really off about him. I will never forget her telling us just to be nice to him and that we don't know what he's capable of.
Yeah, you
that
gotta be
struck me as
respectful.
so odd at the time, but we listened.
You may
I
think
don't
he's
know
weird.
if his mother told my mom something that scared her and made her say that, or if she just had a gut instinct. Recently after that, and I can't quite remember if this was in middle school or high school, I think I was in 9th grade, and my sister and young neighbor boy were in 7th, so we all rode the bus together. What my mom then said stuck out in my mind, so today I decided to be friendlier than usual. There was snow on the ground, and the younger neighbor boy was drawing something in the snow and muttering to himself.
Poor guy.
I decided to greet him. "Hey Adam, what's going on?
Okay.
Nice morning today, huh?" He made no eye contact. "I'll bomb you," he said, still making no eye contact.
Shit!
We let it slide.
Damn!
We came home
Just
and told
like
my
that.
mom. She reiterated, "Just be nice. We have no idea what this kid's capable of."
He just
Keep
said,
in
he
mind,
just said,
we were kids. We didn't know what to take seriously and what not to. I wished we had done more. Keep in mind, he wasn't someone who was bullied or made fun of. He was always off in the sense that he could not hold eye contact or hold a conversation or even...
Well, how else are you gonna know if he's dangerous or not? If he's crazy or that he needs help or that he needs some sort of security, other than if he's talking about some I'ma bomb you, boom. Like I think that's good enough to maybe like look into it. You don't know what he's capable of? That's in his
didn't
mind.
make fun of him. He was a loner, but it seemed to be by choice.
Me too.
I never knew why we were cautious or afraid around him other than the fact that he showed zero warmth and zero humanity.
Oh.
We knew he had special needs, so we never really second-guessed anything and just tried to be polite as possible. When the bus would drop us off at all of our respective houses, he would run all the way up his driveway on the hill with his hands by his sides, and then would turn around and make this weird hiss noise at everyone, making claws with his hands. It was always so odd, but again, we were kids, and there's always a couple of kids in school who are a little strange.
Of course.
We took it as just that. They were invited to several Christmas Eve parties, so memories kind of blend here. One year, the neighbor mom started screaming at my innocent grandmother for being a Yankees fan as she was a Red Sox fan. It was beyond strange, because my grandma is the cutest little lady of all time, and was in no way trying to argue over sports.
Chill out. It was strange.
It was though as the woman clearly had a weird switch go off.
Who is this?
She was always nice to me, but I'll be honest, we always rolled our eyes every single time my mom invited them over. It was always such forced conversations with her, and as a teenager I wanted nothing to do with being cornered into another chat. I think she must have just been lonely. The following and final year they were invited to Christmas Eve was when she got into it with my mom about having guns in the house.
Yeah.
The boys only attended the first couple of Christmas Eve, so it was
that's
just
something to get into it about. Like, if you discover, like, you have children in the house, and they have children in the house, and they tell you that they got guns up in the house, all over the house, I think you have a right to say, like, what's up? What's up? What's tea? Get the fuck out of here, they're gonna shoot us up. They're gonna fill my body with bullets.
started telling my mom about how she has guns in the house and how she takes her younger son to the shooting range all the time. My mom said that she didn't agree with having guns in the house. She wasn't trying to argue, but the neighbor mom got out of hand about it. Very defensive and ultimately getting aggressive about how she grew up in New Hampshire and that's just the way of life out there. The neighbor mom told us about how brilliant that her younger son was, and that he hacked into some of the government's highest levels of security and that the CIA showed up on his doorstep.
We're going all over the place.
We have absolutely no idea if this story is true or not, but this is what she told us. So it became our ongoing joke when anything strange happened at our house. There were a few odd things that happened throughout the years.
Okay.
Our internet had clearly been messed with, lights would flicker in the house, and we would joke that it was the younger boy each time. It wasn't until December 14th, 2012, that we knew just what he was capable of. I was out of college working outside of Philadelphia. My sister still a student in college, and my youngest brother a student at the high school.
Oh, no.
It was the worst day of all of our lives.
No.
My dad heard the gunshots in the morning that killed the neighbor mom, Nancy Lanza. He assumed it had been a hunter in the area, maybe a little closer than usual. That is until the FBI showed up and had to evacuate the house as snipers had lined our driveway.
Shoot 'em up.
My mom was at the mall and we were all frantically calling one another as the news slowly broke throughout the day. At first they had his identity all wrong and said it was his brother, but we knew it had to have been him. Thank God for my mom making sure we were as nice as possible, although I don't know that it would have stopped him. I wish we had done more at the time. I wish we knew to do more at the time.
That was me reacting to Martin's animations. If y'all want me to react to anything else, just let me know. I had fun with this. Let me know. Bye-bye.